They banned this prayer tactic from TikTok, and it's not because it doesn't work, it's because it does. The elites don't fear your strength, they fear your prayers. God mode activated. Here's how it works. You were lied to your entire life. They told you prayer was weak. They made you believe that bending your knees meant surrender. But here's the truth. They don't want you to understand. The strongest men on earth drop to their knees first thing in the morning. Not because they're broken, but because they know who truly runs this game. You want to conquer the world, but can't conquer your mind. You want the throne, but you wake up like a peasant. No purpose, no order, no connection to something higher. And then you wonder why life beats you like it owns you. Let me explain something to you very clearly. God only listens to soldiers. He's not moved by your crime. He's not manipulated by your anxiety. He doesn't respond to emotional weakness. He responds to alignment. He responds to action. You show him faith through motion, not emotion. He sees you grinding with integrity. He watches how you move when no one's watching. That's when the blessings start to come. You think you're waiting on God, but he's already waiting on you. The door's open. You're just too distracted, too addicted, too soft to walk through it. You pray like a child, soft, unsure, begging for miracles you're not even prepared to receive. That's not faith. That's delusion. You pray for strength, then you hit snooze. You ask for discipline, and then you eat junk and scroll TikTok for 4 hours. You plead for purpose, but never sit in silence long enough to hear God whisper back. And I'm here to tell you, brutally and honestly, you're insulting the power of the divine when you pray like a coward and live like a sinner. God didn't give you breath to waste it chasing dopamine. He gave you a war zone called life. And if you don't become a warrior, you'll die like a spectator. But listen carefully, because this is where the hope comes in. The second you align your habits with your prayers, your entire life changes. God doesn't need you to be perfect. He needs you to be consistent. Every morning you rise, hit your knees, say, I'm here again. I'm not quitting. I'm walking with you. Something happens in the unseen. You build a reputation in heaven. Your name starts to echo in spiritual corridors. You become a threat, not because you shout, but because you obey. Power doesn't come from being loud. It comes from being aligned. And alignment requires discipline. Most men are too soft to embrace. There's a reason the elites don't want you spiritually disciplined. Because once you start praying like it's already done and moving like you can't be stopped, you become impossible to control. You're not distracted. You're not addicted. You're not scared of failure. You operate like a man who knows who walks beside him. That level of confidence is dangerous in a world that profits from your insecurity. The moment you become spiritually locked in, the matrix loses grip. They can't sell you emptiness anymore. They can't bait you with pleasure when you're filled with purpose. You want to talk about motivation? Here it is. God didn't bring you this far to leave you average. There's greatness in you so rare it terrifies hell. The reason your life's been hard isn't because you're cursed, it's because you're chosen. You've been forged in pain so you can lead others out of it. But none of it means anything if you don't step into spiritual authority. And that starts when you stop treating prayer like an emotional escape and start using it like a weapon. You don't pray just to feel better. You pray to dominate. You pray to command your mind. You pray to fuel your mission. You pray to keep the fire lit when no one claps for you. Stop asking why it's not happening. Start preparing like it already is. God doesn't bless chaos. He blesses order. He blesses intention. And when he sees you showing up daily, even when it's hard, even when it's quiet, even when you feel like quitting, that's when acceleration kicks in. That's when favor wraps around you like armor. That's when things start happening for you that logic can't explain. And people will say, you're lucky, but they didn't see the early mornings. They didn't see the discipline. They didn't hear the whispers between you and God that kept you alive. You are not lost. You are not broken. You are under construction. You are being refined for a level of greatness that demands isolation. Stop running from it. Start embracing it. The prayers you whisper in the dark will be the reason you shine in public. The world isn't looking for more noise, it's looking for men of substance, men who move differently because they're powered by something higher. And that could be you starting today. I remember the moment everything changed for me. It wasn't when I bought my first supercar. It wasn't the mansion, the private jets, or the millions stacking in my accounts. It was a quiet morning, no cameras, no applause, just me, the cold air, and a silence so deep it felt like God was watching. I had power, money, status, but something inside was empty. I had conquered everything they told me mattered, and still, there was a war raging inside me that luxury couldn't touch. And that was the first time I realized external victory means nothing if you're losing the internal war. So I did what most men are too proud to do. I dropped to my knees. No, not because I was weak, but because I was finally ready to fight for real. The world had taught me to flex muscle and silence pain, but nobody taught me the real flex is control over your own spirit. That morning, I stopped trying to impress the world and started listening to something deeper. And let me tell you, the second you surrender to purpose, everything starts moving. Not fast, not flashy, but with power, with precision. That's the shift most of you will never experience because you're too busy chasing noise instead of seeking alignment. You want me to be honest? That moment saved my life because I was on the edge, not of death, but of spiritual decay. I was successful in the eyes of the world, but dead behind. Why? Because I was operating like a machine, not a man. Everything was strategy, everything was war. But when you fight every day without direction from something higher, eventually you burn, you crash, you collapse. I led the world in my hands, but I had no fire in my chest. That's when I realized power without spiritual clarity is just ego on steroids. An ego without humility is a time bomb. People think prayer is a weakness. Eh? No, real prayer is the deepest form of warfare. When I started praying daily, not just for things, but for wisdom, for discipline, for clarity, things started aligning. I didn't ask for shortcuts. I didn't beg for miracles. I asked for the strength to carry the load. I asked for fire that couldn't be put out by fatigue or failure. And when you start asking for the right things, the universe rearranges itself to match your frequency. Doors you didn't even knock on start opening. People you never met start speaking your name in rooms you never entered. Not because you're lucky, but because you're in flow with something eternal. And I'll tell you another story. I was in Romania, freezing cold, training, alone, no media, no deals, just sweat. That session, I moved like a man possessed, not by rage, but by purpose. And I realized something that day. The most lethal man in the room is the one who fights for something sacred. Rage burns out, ego cracks under pressure. But a man led by a mission, that man can't be broken. That man is immortal, even in defeat. You want to be unbeatable? Anchor yourself in something they can't cancel, something they can't tax, something they can't control. When your success is built on faith, on discipline, on a relentless commitment to something higher than comfort, you become untouchable. They can attack your reputation. They can take your bank accounts, but they can't take what's been sealed in your soul by the divine. That's real wealth. That's real security. That's what the weak will never understand and what the strong will always protect. The first time I prayed like a man, not a boy, I felt fear leave my body. I wasn't asking anymore. I was declaring. I wasn't unsure. I was aligned. And that moment didn't make me soft. It made me nuclear. Because now I wasn't fighting just to win. I was fighting not to betray the one who gave me breath. You think that's dramatic? Then you've never fought for something real. You never tasted a mission so pure it makes you cry in private and roar in public. That's the level I operate on, and that's a level available to you if you kill the noise and choose alignment. The world wants you spiritually dead, numb, addicted, lost in distractions, because a spiritually awake man can't be seduced by mediocrity. He doesn't chase clout, he chases legacy. He doesn't beg for handouts, he builds empires. He doesn't fear hardship, he invites it. Because he knows fire is how gold is purified. You want to be rare? Wake up before the world. Kneel before your mission. Speak your future into existence. and then go out and build it with blood, sweat, and unwavering faith. That's how kings are made. The clock doesn't care about your dreams. It ticks whether you move or sit, build or scroll, conquer or collapse. And one day, you're going to wake up with the terrifying realization that time isn't just slipping, and you're still standing in the same spot because you thought life would wait. Let me tell you something brutal. It won't. No one's coming. No mentor, no savior, no shortcut. Just silence and time chewing away at your chances. That's reality. And if that truth doesn't set your soul on fire, then you're already halfway buried. Do you know why most men live in quiet desperation? Because they were tricked into thinking there's always tomorrow. Tomorrow to start, tomorrow to focus, tomorrow to break the cycle. But that's the biggest lie society feeds the weak, the illusion of infinite time. And the moment you buy that lie, your edge is gone. You become soft. You start negotiating with your own potential. You make deals with procrastination. And eventually, you become one of those men with stories, not results. Regret replaces ambition. Nostalgia replaces hunger, and you walk the earth with your head down, haunted by the man you could have been. But now there's a version of you, sharper, stronger, richer, freer, already existing in another timeline. The only difference is that he didn't hesitate. He didn't let fear hijack his decisions. He didn't worship comfort. He didn't scroll for dopamine like a slave. He got up when no one was watching, trained when his body begged for rest, studied when the world was partying, and aligned his actions with his mission daily. That version of you is proof, not a fantasy, not a dream, proof. But you're running out of time to meet him. Every lazy decision you make today pushes that version further out of reach, and you're too blind to even feel the distance growing. You're not stuck, you're just surrounded by people who quit on themselves so long ago, they've convinced you settling is noble. They fear your growth because it mirrors their decay. That's why they mock your discipline, your prayer, your obsession. Because every step you take toward excellence is a spotlight on their surrender. And if you keep listening to them, you'll end up in the same cage, comfortable, mediocre, forgotten. But if you break the pattern now, if you decide to escape the loop, you become dangerous. You become untouchable. You become the man they pretend doesn't exist because your existence exposes them. There will come a moment, maybe not today, maybe not next year, where life will punch you so hard it'll test your soul, not your body. A betrayal, a failure, a death, a collapse. And in that moment, there's no motivation, there's no music, there's no audience cheering, just you, your mind, and the blueprint you've been building in silence. That's when the truth is revealed. Either you've been preparing spiritually, physically, mentally, or you crumble. That's why I don't train for looks, I train for war. I don't pray for blessings, I pray for strength. Because I know the storm is coming. And when it does, I won't fold, I'll rise. What are you really afraid of? Not failure, not rejection, not pain. You're afraid of becoming powerful. You're afraid of responsibility, because deep down you know that once you rise, there's no going back. Once you build discipline, you can't lie to yourself anymore. Once you taste true potential, every lazy second becomes agony. That's the real fear. The fear of becoming who you were born to be, because greatness demands sacrifice, and most men would rather be liked than legendary. Most men would rather be safe than sovereign. Most men die average because they fear standing alone at the top. Let me give you something no one tells you. The door to your next level won't open by accident. It opens when you decide your current reality is unacceptable. It opens when you get so disgusted with your own excuses that mediocrity starts to itch like poison on your skin. You want to win? Burn the backup plan. You want power? Stop waiting for permission. You want peace? Build your life so violently focused that anxiety and doubt can't even get close. Time's not your friend, it's your executioner. You either use it like a blade or get buried by it. No one's exempt, not even you. Every man who's ever changed the world had one thing in common. They moved when it wasn't convenient. They built when no one clapped. They sacrificed when no one understood. And eventually, the world bowed. But you? Still negotiating, still figuring things out, still clinging to habits that poison your future. And deep down you know it. You feel the pull, that quiet voice telling you it's time to go harder, go deeper, rise. But you keep hitting snooze on your calling because it doesn't scream, it whispers. And most men have turned up the volume on distractions so loud they can't hear destiny anymore. But I'll end with this. The man who decides, truly decides, becomes unstoppable. The second you make the internal shift, this sacred promise that you'll never again betray your mission, the universe makes way. Not instantly, not gently, but powerfully. You'll be tested. You'll be doubted. But if you stay sharp, stay faithful, stay dangerous, you won't just win. You'll transcend. And every man who ever doubted you will be forced to watch in silence as you become a monument to what's possible when a man wakes up. Every second you delay, your crown gathers dust. Every moment you doubt yourself, another man is sharpening his edge, building his empire and writing the legacy you were too scared to chase. You think life owes you a warm-up. You think you'll be ready when the opportunity arrives? No. Life isn't kind. It doesn't wait. It doesn't announce its tests. It hits you mid-sentence, mid-sleep, mid-dream, and only the prepared survive. Only the man who lives like a storm is coming will walk through hell and come out scarred but smiling. Discipline isn't about waking up early. It's about killing the voice that tells you to quit when no one's watching. It's about moving with precision while others are paralyzed by doubt. It's about looking your fear dead in the eyes and refusing to blink. Most of you are addicted to comfort, but want the rewards of discomfort. You scroll through a highlight reel and wonder why your life feels like a loop, because you've built a shrine to distraction while burying your ambition in silence. If your routine doesn't scare the average man, it's not powerful. If your life isn't making lazy people uncomfortable, you're playing too small. You will never feel ready, because greatness doesn't come wrapped in convenience, it comes wrapped in pain, in sacrifice, in lonely nights where your only companion is the vision you refuse to abandon. Every powerful man was forged in moments no one clapped for. He didn't ask for approval, he didn't seek comfort. He bled in silence, worked while the world slept, and turned his suffering into scripture. The moment you stop asking for permission and start moving like a man possessed by destiny, everything shifts. Doors open, enemies vanish. God watches closely, not to bless laziness, but to reward unwavering commitment. Your potential is not asleep, it's suffocating, dying slowly behind your excuses. It's choking in the prison you built with tomorrows and what ifs.